Greetings under the car again. Blessings. We are working on a 2008 Kia Optima. I'm just going to show you some parts to disconnect when it comes to your rack and pinion. And I'd say that the sway bar link and this, you may not see it until you get under the car. But this little, this little rubber piece, if you oil that up a little bit, it'll actually be easy to come off. I would take it off the top part. Also, these bolts here, if you can see that, this is for the subframe. There's one on the other side as well. Right above that, see there's a hole here, down here. Take a look down here. That hole down there has a bolt right above that, connecting the sway bar link to the subframe. So sway bar link and subframe, there's a bolt, but you have to access it from the top. Go ahead and go to the top if you can. Great way to do that. I think that was I want to say a 14, or was it a 12? I don't remember. 12 or 14. Go by twos. And you see I didn't take the whole thing off. I left everything sort of on in one position, or at least as I lower down each corner, that there's still one side of these up around this here and not completely lowered, because it becomes more difficult to put this rack on if you're doing it alone. Also, if we'll go on the other side, you have another one of these in the back. You have to lower it at least to, this thing is probably about 4 or 5 inches long, this peg that attaches the subframe to the car, or to the frame of the car. That right there is difficult to get to on the other side. So if you can lower it first before you attempt to take it off, it's smart. This is also in the front. I used an extension, or just let me show you what I used to get most of those off pretty easy. Go ahead and show them this. The flex head ratchet, 17 millimeters for, not these are like 15s, but we're talking about 17s for pretty much everything on top of the rack. That was in these 4 bolts. Remember I told you what's at the bottom is at the top. They tell you sort of where the bolts are. This is not one though, but check that out. I also marked, to get lower if you can, I marked with nail polish, just purple for the front ones, so I can remember this at some later juncture, and blue in the rear, also in the same. If there was one there, I would have. There is one there. Yeah, I think I did that as well. If I didn't, I need to get on that immediately. I did, but not enough. Yeah, we had Javelina come and make me move away from under the car the other night, so I had to take a break. But yeah, so same here on this side and this side. Now, if you have your rack and it seems that you can't get them to line up, and you cross thread like I did 20 times, and this one over here, which is the top of the there is I want to say some sort of, it's like a clasp, and you put it over the top, sort of like a band, a metal band that goes over the actual rubber bushings, similar to the sway bar over here. You can see that right there. Can they see it pretty good? So when you get this issue on the actual rack itself, chances are you have to readjust the that clasp, and you'll see it. It's on the passenger side. It's got all the things hooked up to it. Here, let me show you real quick. It's got all of these devices of the hoses hooked up to it. You see that? And that. And this is with the foil, or the thermal tape right there. That's in the rear. also that heat shield right there. It's got 2 bolts on the top. One there and one there. Pain in the butt also if you're not lined up with this thing right here. Let me show you. Okay. Let me try to locate it. More complicated than it looks. You YouTubers are amazing that work on cars and can actually do all this at the same time. What the heck? Anyway, maybe my daughter can go up top and show you in a minute. But check that out. I don't know if you see that. But there it is with the bushing right behind that one. You see it? That bolt was a pain in the butt. Terrible. Anyhow, got that hooked up, but that tower right here, you definitely want to pay attention to how this is set up. That top bolt, it's towards the front of the car. It's the longest one of the 10mm series. This one here, the short one in the rear, facing the rear. It hooks this hose. It hooks this hose with the, I think this is the low pressure line. Wait, let me look. Yeah, low pressure line for the pinion. And the other is the high pressure. And they both go underneath that heat shield. And there's also, right underneath it, a little point where you'll see it directly beneath that nut right there, where you can unhook them. You'll see. You dig in, it'll be under there. Make sure you hook that back together. And I'm going to stop right there just for now. One more time, I'll show you how this is set up. 2 in the back, lots of mosquitoes. 2 scissor jacks in the back, set of bricks in the front. Some people use a cooler. I would not recommend using a cooler. Mostly because that cooler has room for slipping error. You want to get something that's gritty or something that'll be sturdy. I'm going to put another board right there. It was a board on top of there, but I used it for something else, and I found another later. But yeah, and I also have, people are crazy not to keep that jacked up. They're insane. I don't trust it that much. What if your motor mounts on both sides are sketchy, and then you'll shake the car and one side will come down on you? Be smart. You know, if you haven't checked those motor mounts, don't do what those fools on YouTube are doing. They're not being fools. They're actually being very intelligent, because they know probably that their motor mounts aren't in peril. But most do-it-yourselfers will not check that. Please, please, please check your motor mounts before you decide, I'm going to go into this thing. And if you had a leak, I recommend that you actually wipe things down underneath as much as you possibly can. Because when you do that, you actually leave room to note the errors when it comes to fluid leaks. Yeah, it had been a while since I had done my rack, but it took about 4 months before I actually got to it again. So that's it for now. Rewind this thing over and over again if you need to. I'll pause in a few different right now, just so you can see how it's set up. I'm facing the front right now, and I'm underneath the driver's seat and passenger seat. But check it out. So driver's side is on the left, literally right to your left. Keep your sway bars disconnected also, so you can have some clearance. And if you took your lower ball joints off, I want to say now is the time to get ready to put those bad babies back on. That way everything's sort of connected as you lifted, it'll be easier to put them on right now. I do believe as you're lifting it than afterwards. So I don't know. I don't know the difference, but maybe you can let me know in a video or a comment. Those tie rod ends were also measured and all that, and they face odd directions. So we're going to have to worry about that too in a second. Not necessarily worry, but measure and remeasure. Also, you want to take note. These lines, those lines that I was talking about earlier, they're here and here. That is called, hey Jane, what is that called? This bolt, special bolt under here, banjo bolt. I can never remember that. You see it? Just trying to get a good picture of it. Google what a banjo bolt is. You'll see. There it is. My camera's no good, y'all. So it's got two copper fittings, washers. I've talked about it in one video, but on one side and then the other. I would definitely put a rubber O-ring around it, and you don't really need one up there, but I'd say you do. Make sure you get an O-ring on there as well. They come with the new rack or the refurbished rack or whatever it is you get. On those red screws, they come on those. Just put it right on the end there, and then you'll have right there. You'll have some seals. So I'll leave you at that. And if you have any questions or comments, don't talk trash. I'm not the best at the camera, but one day maybe I will be. Shalom. Peace and blessings in your work.